Joining us now to discuss Bitcoin price and more is Katie Talati, head of research at Arca. Katie, thanks for joining us. So earlier this morning, we talked to factor trading founder Peter Brandt. He called 13,000 at Bitcoin's bottom, about 80% down from all-time highs. Do you agree? What are your thoughts there?
I'm not one to make price predictions, especially around the price of Bitcoin. I know that there are certain levels that traders are looking at in terms of resistance and support for Bitcoin. I do know that right now, we've really been in this range of around 19,000 with Bitcoin for several weeks. There's very little volatility in the market. There's not been much happening with Bitcoin and with Ethereum. They're both been pretty stagnant. And so there is the potential for a breakout one way or another, just because when you have, low volatility like this, there's got to be, either a violent move up or down. So that's what some are predicting. I don't know if it would go all the way to 13,000. I don't know, if that number is based on just trading signals, but for us, we definitely believe Bitcoin is interesting on the long term, but it's definitely been not the most interesting investment in the last few months.
Okay. There's a whole bunch of questions there. I guess, when will we see a breakdown? And if Bitcoin's not interesting, when are you watching? I can't really give an answer on when we would see a breakout. Like I said, there's a lot of people who are kind of just watching other, pieces in the market, things like Bitcoin correlation to gold, to the S&P. They're also watching Bitcoin's, Bitcoin miners, seeing if they're, selling or holding tokens. There, obviously, you guys talked about hash rate earlier in the show. There's been the potential for, we've been hearing that Bitcoin miners are going to stop mining in Europe over the winter over energy concerns. These are a lot of kind of different factors that play into what could happen with Bitcoin and when. There's really no timing, though, that I can give definitively. The chart up here, though, is pretty interesting. It's showing that, since about August, correlation with gold has been increasing. It was basically at about 0 in August and has since gone up to 0.5. Still notable, though, Bitcoin is still more heavily correlated with the NASDAQ and the S&P 500 in the last several months. All right. We're also anticipating the third quarter GDP report coming out this week on Thursday. It's so far, some analysts are saying it's going to look positive, and the U.S. could possibly stave off a recession, according to Wall Street Journal. So are we in a recession, Katie? What are your thoughts there?
It's really tricky. I think the macro environment has been one that we haven't really seen before, with inflation being driven mostly by labor shortages, increase in wages, and not necessarily just because price of goods has been increasing. So we're in a very odd environment, and we're also in an environment where the U.S. dollar has been very strong. The U.S. has been very quick to nip inflation in the bud, or try to, at least with rate hikes, whereas other global economies have not been as aggressive, and they're starting to see some issues around the edges as a result.
All right. And you mentioned something interesting. So there is a correlation to the stocks. There's correlation to gold. Gold is often spoken as a safe haven asset, where stocks are risk on. So what is Bitcoin? Is it risk on or risk off?
I used to think it would be definitely like a digital gold. I think we've definitely seen, based, I would say, on kind of volumes and actually the lack of price action in Bitcoin, is that anybody who was previously using Bitcoin as a macro trading vehicle isn't really using it for that anymore. There's just so few buyers and sellers right now. And like I said, volumes are so depressed. It would indicate to us that there are probably not as many non-digital asset native funds trading Bitcoin for the purpose of as a risk-on asset.
Plus, Katie, there is talk that there could be a Fed pivot. And if that happens, what might be the impact on Bitcoin?
A Fed pivot should be positive for digital assets, especially, like I said, with the correlation of the stock market being so high the last few months. The market is expected to rally based on, the Fed maybe lowering rates or reversing course on all the rate hikes. That would definitely be good for Bitcoin and digital assets in the short term.